So you've been weaving and you've been gaining some skills, and maybe it's time with your Rigid Heddle Loom to try something a little bit more complicated. And if you've been feeling a little overwhelmed, that's perfectly natural. Today what I want to do is show you how to weave a more complex warp, something that would make it possible for you to weave a piece of cloth like this, for example, where there is about 25 to 30 different colors of yarn in this piece of cloth. This has been felted, so it looks very different than it did when it came off the loom, but it is possible to do color work and transitions between colors or values and hues if you work very carefully as you are warping your loom and if you work carefully as you're weaving. So pretty much a lot of really glorious choices are in front of you, and anything's possible. If you can dream it, you can probably weave it. So let me show you a little bit about how I wove this cloth, and hopefully it'll spark your creativity as well. So I started by giving myself a framework. I went through and put out some colors to give myself kind of a feel for where I was going, and then went one color at a time, working very systematically to develop this colorful warp from one side to the other. And yeah, it looks a little chaotic, but it actually works out pretty well. So don't get overwhelmed, just, keep working at it. It's gonna work out. It will eventually come together. And don't be afraid. If you can do it once, you can do it the second time. There's nothing that can't be undone. Okay, so this is a very complex combination of colors from the greens over here to the fuchsias. And I'm just going through and making some little shifts in the colors because I wasn't crazy about a few things. I have two turquoise threads here side by side, two of these side by side. So I'm going to take this one out and I'm going to take this one out, and we're going to switch them around so that turquoise thread is here, and kind of set that into place. And then we're going to move this kind of periwinkle blue thread over here, and then I'm going to take a look at that again and see if that's better. Yeah, I think that is better. So when I'm doing stuff like this where I'm actually pulling against the warping peg at the other end, I do have a tendency to keep my feet pretty firmly planted on the bottom of the loom so that it doesn't go. Because if I let go, the whole thing will shift. So I don't want to do that right yet. So, and then this is how I tie on. I've got the top part of the heddle, and the part that are through the little holes right here. I pull them down, and then you pull up on either side. And this one's kind of messy because some of them are long. And then give it a tie, okay? Now I'm not going to go more than one tie. Usually it's two ties, but I'm not going to go more than one because right now I don't have any tensions set. Okay, I had two empty slots right here in this warp, so I added this yarn. And so let's see how that blends with these colors. I think it looks pretty good, but unfortunately I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 threads that have kind of a turquoisey green color in this section and nothing in here, and that's feeling a little bit too harsh of a shift. I'm really loving the color changes, but it's a little bit too much here. So I'm going to take out one of the greens, one of the turquoises, and we're going to put him over in this section. And in that case, maybe I will move a purple over. Maybe I will move, nope, that one's too far over. Let's do the blue. So I'm going to put this one at where the other one was. Now this is really fiddly little stuff, but I really want these color waves to, oh, see, now that's an improvement. That is an improvement. Can you see that? Yeah, that really helped actually. I'm happier with that now. Because when you have like 1, 2, 3, 4 of the greens and then it stops, it's better to have somebody over in the other side to kind of balance it, to get that color like I wanted. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now I do have one more spot right here. I need to thread one more yarn to complete the warp. And naturally it's a question of, okay, what color? Because I have about 20 different yarns on the floor that I have been using in this warp. And so it's a matter of, okay, which one? And you can hear my beagle next door. That's funny. He's actually a really sweet dog. He's just got a really big mouth. Okay. I'm going to make some changes here because there's 3 turquoise of this real beautiful bright turquoise in a row and then nothing for all of this space. So we're going to go ahead and make a shift on that. That beagle is really unhappy, isn't he? I'm actually kind of surprised mine isn't chiming in. Poor doggy. Oh, that's a big improvement too. It's just moving, you know, there's 2 side by side isn't so bad, but when you have 3 in a row, it gets to be a little bit too much. And I think I'm going to go ahead and make a shift here, or maybe with this one. Make a trade for this one. And we're just going to switch those. So again, this is little fiddly stuff, but it does make a difference in how the colorways look when it's this complex warp. So yeah, I'm liking that better. I am liking that better. Okay, again, I pull the top ones separate from the bottom ones and then tie on one knot. Okay, looking pretty good. All right, I'm pretty happy with how it looks now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and I always start in the middle. I always start in the middle. I'm not even sure why. It's just the way I do it. Because if you don't start in the middle, you can really get some screwy tension stuff going. If you go from like one side to the other, some really strange tension stuff can happen. So I am pretty intentional about starting in the middle. And now I'm going to go ahead and tie one knot and then tie a second knot. Okay, so this, they don't have to be extremely tight knots, but they do need to be firm enough that it's not going to move a lot. Because I do come along and untie these then at the end of the project, so I don't want it to be like, I'm not going to pull on this with all of my strength. But I do, they are firm, okay? So it's not, you can see I'm not tying it that tight. And let me just show you, for the sake of the argument here, how this works. Okay, so it's got a little knot here, and you pull up instead of pulling out, actually. Pull up, and then out, and then another knot. Just simple, simple. Okay, you're not really actually pulling, you're actually just pulling up. Now I'm holding the whole loom with my feet so that when I pull up, I'm not changing the shift. I'm not shifting where it's located on the floor in relation to the warping peg on the other end. So that's an important detail. To keep the loom in place so that you don't screw up the tension. I mean, literally one of the first times I did a project like this, I kept working and kept working to get the tension tight, and the loom was walking across the floor. And I wasn't paying attention. I didn't realize it. And you know what? If you're not working with a fixed point, it's nearly impossible to get that tension right. But we've got a little ways to go before we have to really worry about the tension on this project. So we're going to wrap it all up and bring it home. Okay, that's the last one. Just like that. Okay, neat. Have all of them. I just like the colors, and I mean, this is part of the fun for me. I don't know, I guess I get a little OCD about it, but I really, really love all the colors. I love having it all just organized in a way that's beautiful to me, you know? Because to me, order is beautiful, and color is beautiful. And so all of this is really cool. All right. I just borrowed, so to speak. It's just a manner of speaking. Some mahogany, these mahogany strips from my husband's workshop so that I can conceivably continue this winding on process. I even had him cut a yardstick shorter, and I use that also. That's the whole point of making sure that you've got a good wooden piece in between each layer, because what you don't want to have happen is for the threads to come in to each other and kind of blend together here on this bar, and then that makes it so the tension will be wrong. And if the tension's wrong, it's not fun to weave. Believe me, it's just not fun when the tension is wrong. So I'll continue to add some of these. So I'm adding another stick right here. And I think that's good. And then I'm going to go ahead and sort out these tension issues. Okay. I have just wound on the end with a bunch of wooden sticks, which you can't see on either end, unfortunately. But now I'm going to go ahead and come through here and adjust the tension. So you start in the middle, always start in the middle. And I'm going to just pull each thread, kind of make sure I've got every one. And pay attention to what's happening back here. Make sure that you can see them on top of the last stick, so that you know that you're getting the right, oh well, I don't have one of my usual thingies. I'm also going to make an adjustment here. I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to tighten this a little bit further, because I have a lot of thread here that would be wasted. So I'm going to go ahead and make another adjustment here. They got a little chaotic when I was fixing the warp, and the way it was wound on was not consistent, so I had to kind of go back and work it out a second time. So it's just a matter of the preferences, the ways you really like to do things. And I just don't like having this much yarn wasted, especially in a warp that's this complex. I can be very... I'd rather have the cloth than the trash yarn at the end of the project. So I'm going to go ahead and take these all off. Well, hi there. Have we got a puppy dog? You going to come say hi? Oh, she's scared because of all the thunder, so she probably won't say hi.
Oh, hi, sweetheart. Are you scared? Yes, that sweetheart is scared. I don't like it when you're scared, sweetheart. You should be nice and bold. Come. Oh, there's a... I need to trim that. Okay. Are you brave? Are you my brave girl? Yes, you got wet. Did you get wet on your heads? Big fat raindrops? Yes, you got big fat raindrops.
Anytime I'm warping the loom with some really beautiful yarn, I really want yardage out of the deal, not just yarn scraps at the end of the project. So it took an extra step this time, but it was worth it to get more yardage in the end.
In this section, I have one little thread that is too short. So I'm going to repair this in whatever way possible, basically. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and open up these two, and I'm going to we're going to pull this guy out because he's obviously not going to work. So we're just going to put him over the edge back there, and that'll be fine. And then I'm going to pull one from over here, one strand over, pull him out, and we're going to put him through the hole in the loop. Okay? Try to move him all the way back, but, you know, it is what it is. It's going to be easier to move one section at a time than it is to try to replace the whole thing and take the whole warp apart. So we're just going to move one yarn over a few times here, because thankfully it's close to the end. And we're just going to move one yarn over to this section now. Okay, so what looks like it needs to go over here? I think probably this guy wants to go over there. Oh, you know what? Actually, I think we need another one of these colors. So we're going to put the light one over here. This also allows me to change the color a little tiny bit. Just one thread worth. So I've got that one fixed, and now I've got a hole in that one. So we're going to empty out this one. The easiest way to get a hold of these is to pull really hard forward and then get a hold of the side. And then we're going to take one off of the end and put that one right here. I'm trying not to make big moves in the warp because I don't want this business getting tangled up. I don't want this stuff getting tangled up as I progress the warp, so I'm not making big shifts. It was just a matter of moving a few threads over to fix that problem. Okay? And since that one came from the end, well, look, we got a double thread there. Since that one came from the end, it's no problem. Actually, since we have a double thread, I might just go ahead and put the one on the end back. And see, this is creating a little bit of I have to be really careful as I'm weaving and make sure that the that I don't knot that up really good as I'm weaving. I need to just kind of keep an eye on that I don't tangle it up as I'm weaving. Okay. So I'm going to go through here and check the warp. It feels pretty good. It actually feels really good. And the board back here looks nice. There's nobody sticking out. It just looks really good across the back. So we're going to start again in the middle, like I usually do. I got a dog at my feet, so I want to make sure I don't step on anybody. And so we're going to start here, and I've got one knot on each one of these, so I'm going to pull forward and then down, and then we're going to add a second knot. I don't haul down on these and tie them for all I'm worth, because I do want to come along later and untie them, because I don't want to waste this yarn. This is beautiful, beautiful yarn. So I do tie it pretty tight the first round, And then the second round, I don't tie it quite as tight. It's still firm, but I do want to be able to get that knot tight. All right, beautiful, really beautiful. I am happy with how this looks. Now basically it's time to wrap all of this on this bar, and that way I can start weaving on the other end. How to begin weaving. How do you start your weaving project after you've got the loom all wound up? Well, I start with this bulky yarn. This is an acrylic, so I can send it through the wash and it won't felt, and I can get it back out. But as you can see, I have used this many times, and basically this is how it works. Put your heddle in the position to begin. Give yourself enough tail so that you can get all the way across. I'm gonna have to get a larger heddle on this project. I don't use the big ones very often because they're, we've got a smaller space. It's not that easy to get them where they're supposed to be. Okay, you always put it in at an angle, and then you pull back. Okay. Now, this is a really beautiful warp, so I want to make sure I have it just as, that I keep as much of the yarn as possible, that I don't waste any of this beautiful warp. So I really did pull it. You can see I pulled it all the way down. And I can see I really am going to have to use the bigger heddles. I usually weave smaller pieces than this. Okay, again, put it in there at an angle and pull. Looks a little crazy, doesn't it? There we go, got it. Now I'm checking with this hand to make sure that the turnaround is not got a loop sticking out, but that it's straight here. And then pull it at an angle. And then you can see how they're beginning to come together. And that's a good thing. It's precisely what you want with this. I call this trash yarn. It's not genuinely trash yarn, I just call it that because I use it for this purpose only. And it's ideal for this. It's a little bit bulky, so it really does hold its place. It's acrylic, so it won't felt. So I can felt the project and then pull this yarn back out. So I can use it over and over and over again. Well, that didn't work. I think what I can do, I've just got the wrong heddle, so I'm going to pull a different heddle here. All right, we're getting closer. We're not quite there, but we're getting closer. All right, I still have some gaps here and here, here and here. So we're going to keep going with this yarn. And I'm going to get a different heddle. This heddle comes with yarn on it, so we're just going to continue with that. That's fine. Pretty much any yarn is fine for this. Just anything that will... See why I don't use a big heddle very often? I'm crashing into the yarn on the wall. And then the camera. So this feels like it's wool, but it's not going to matter. Trying to do it around the camera. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to turn the whole loom so that I'm weaving crosswise in the room, so I'm not crashing into stuff when I'm weaving with a big heddle. Okay, so you're going to continue with this yarn that's not necessarily your project until all of the yarns stay in place when you pull the heddle back. And I've been calling a shuttle a heddle the whole time. The terminology really is not that important. It's just a matter of getting the yarn where it needs to go. Okay, so you're in the right place and it's doing what it's supposed to if you pull the heddle back and nobody changes position. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a gap here and here and here and here, but we're getting pretty close. So when you no longer have these gaps, then you know you're ready to go ahead and begin the project. Close. I'm going to go ahead and put this turquoise in place and then put another round of that purple in, and then it'll go where it's supposed to go. There's not a lot of body to this, so it's not changing the thing. It's just really not changing it. So here we go. Let's get the next piece on here. All right, let's see if that does it. Yeah. We'll do one more across, just because I can. and that will be ready to go. Because now all the yarns are in place. Whoops. Okay, now, how does it look? Oh, it looks great. Okay, see how it took it from being little groups to one strong, consistent row, okay? It took it from being these clumps into being a beautiful start to a project. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. I'm probably not going to cut this. Oh look, I can probably get that one across. Just to get it out of my way, I'm going to go ahead and send that last piece across. Yeah. I'm going to have to weave in this room a little bit differently than I usually do just because of the width of this warp. Okay. I think there's some wool in this, so this will go in my little grouping of dryer balls. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave it like this. There's a little less tension on it when the heddle is out of position, or you can put the heddle in the neutral position. But this is absolutely beautiful and ready to go with whatever direction I decide to go in the morning.
first of all, a friend gave me a coat, and I haven't been able to find fiber content on it, but I'm not sure. There's a possibility that this has some wool in it. It feels like it's too soft to be wool, but I'm going to wash it and see how it responds. And if it turns out to be a beautiful coat that doesn't have any wool in it, then I'll just donate it. And if it does have wool in it, then I'll cut it up and use it. I have also just pulled this off the loom, and it's got a little space at the end, which is kind of weird and fun. And then there's about, I don't know, 2.5 inches of black woven in there. And then I did kind of a pastel section, which is kind of fun. You can't really, I don't know, it doesn't really read. I was kind of curious to see how that would read, and it'll be really interesting to see once it's felted. But then here is the part that I really, really love. And so I have a section that goes from the fuchsia over to the green once, and then again going back. And then a couple of stripes, additional stripes of pink, and then black, and then white, and then this is the acrylic yarn that will come back out. So every time I throw something in the washer that is time to felt it, I say a little prayer and hope that it comes out more beautiful than it went in, and we'll just see how it goes. I have had one time where I put something in the wash, and I just thought it was so beautiful when it went in, and when it came out, what had been perfectly straight edges had become scallops because the different yarns felted at a different rate. And even though it was the same brand, same style of yarn, the different colors felted at a different rate from each other. So I was not amused by that, and so ever since then I think I've been a little bit reticent to throw something in there. But the difference between wool yarn and wool yarn that's been felted is phenomenal. It's soft, it's luxurious, it's thick and comfy. Oh gosh. So it's worth the risk. And so here we go. Let's see what it turns out to look like. This is so much fun. I just got this out of the dryer. It is the weaving project that I had been working on now for a couple of weeks. And I really love how it turned out. You can see that the warp was very intentional from the fuchsia on this side into the green, and then I wove with those same colors with the same variations. So you can see there's stripes, there's interesting stuff happening. It's really cool. Now this has been felted, mind you, so it has a very different texture than it did when it came off the loom. But it's from the fuzzy fuchsia over into the turquoise, and then here back into the green. So there's just there's so much beautiful cloth here that I'm really happy with. It shrank like crazy. I should have measured it before it went in, because I started out on the loom doing about 30 inches wide, and it is now, see how wide it is. It's 23 wide, so there was a lot. I mean, naturally when it comes off the loom there is what's called take-up, which means it loses 10% just coming off the loom. This particular case, usually they say felting will take another 10%, but I'm experiencing it being more than that. Now I haven't done the math specifically to be able to tell you how much more, but with the wools that I'm using, it's taking up. And I'm weaving a fairly loose weave for this, so it's shrinking more, I guess, because I'm weaving so gently. So this is 341 grams of wool, and just to give you perspective, one of these is 50 grams, okay? So this is equal to 7 of these. This is equal to 7 of these, okay? Just to give you a little perspective of how much wool is actually in here. So the beauty of that is you can pick your colors And I know that it's an upfront cost to put together something like this, but you can make more than one item, is what I'm trying to say. So this is the equivalent to 7 of these palette yarn skeins. Now, it wasn't just palette yarn that I used in here, but I'm so happy with it. I don't know if I mentioned that I did a section of this warp in a natural wool. It's not optically weighted. It's just a natural white wool. And then I added some pastels. So I used this row in here. You can see it starts here with the green into the blue, into the lavender, into the pink. And so what happens here is this really cool kind of complex combination of colors. I love it. I am really happy with it. So I don't know yet if it's going to become wearable or if it's going to become a tote bag or a purse or something. I don't know, but I am absolutely loving the cloth. And maybe it's time to think about what's next on the loom because, you know, this is totally addictive.